Jai Bhim, Jai Mullivati all. Welcome you all once again to MNT News Network's special prime time session. Today is Sunday, 8:30 p.m. And today we are having the special prime time session in English language. As usual, every Sunday we are organizing this session in English. As you know that every Sunday we are organizing this particular discussion with respect to the topics that are very crucial and very the information is needed to at much extent for the people, and they are in a dilemma what to do in the present scenario, the way it is going on. Today also we are going to discuss on very important topic, and today specifically recently you had seen that there were assembly state elections, and before that for the last 10 years the way the political scenario is changing, and the way the election commission is playing its role, and the way the EVMs and the EVM machines itself are playing. There are many questions in the mind of every citizen of India. What and how this all has happened, and what will be the future, and everybody is worried. And as far as the coming Lok Sabha elections and many state elections are coming up, many political parties are opposing to it till date, and they are also fighting, and they are also trying to bring back the ballot paper. So this is a very burning topic, and there are various things that every individual wants to know. So today we are going to discuss on this particular important topic, and today we had with us Abhishek Chauhan sir. Abhishek Chauhan sir is LLM graduate from Penn State Law, the Pennsylvania State University, USA, and today he is going to discuss with us about the global perspective of EVM, electronic voting machine. So it will be a very informative topic, and very the information which is not normally available in the field. So once again, request all the viewers who are watching on Facebook and YouTube. The viewers who are watching on Facebook, they are requested to share this particular video on their timeline, so that every individual who is there in the social network of them will get the link to watch this particular video. And also all the viewers are requested to put their comments and like and share this particular information, so that it passes on to the maximum people of India, because this information is really very informative. So without wasting time, I would like to invite Mullevasi Abhishek Chauhan sir. Abhishek Chauhan sir, a warm welcome, and Jai Bhim, Jai Mullevasi, Jai Bharat, Jai Samvidhan.
Thank you so much, Ashish ji. Jai Bhim, Jai Mulya Nivasi, Jai Bharat, Jai Samvidhan. And
Welcome you. Yeah.
warm greetings and thanks to all those who are watching this program today, because the program is directly relates to the foundation of our democracy, which is the electronic voting machine, and it is very imperative to talk about it in today's time.
Right, sir. Welcome you once again to MNT News Network. And today, specifically, as I said earlier, that there are various questions in the mind of every individual of the people, and they are in a dilemma what to do, or what are the alternatives available, and why basically such type of change in the this election system was adopted from ballot system to the EVM machines. And so far, whatever the news are coming up, or whatever the changes or hacking, or many questions are there, many things are happening in the state assembly elections as well as the Lok Sabha elections, and people are worried in for the forthcoming elections how it will be, and whether is there any chance to bring back this ballot paper machine, so that their right is secured, and their voting right is secured, and they see the election, basically the people, the voting right is the main right, and that gives the right to elect the people, their representatives. So I would request you to give a global perspective on this ballot paper versus electronic voting machines, and what are the various alternatives, or what people should do in coming forthcoming years and all to overcome this scenario. So please give elaborate information on this entire system of these voting machines and voting system itself, sir.
Yes, definitely, Ashish ji. So the topic for today is EVM, a global perspective. First, I think before starting our talk on what is the procedure and what is the election procedure in different countries, we should first talk about why are we discussing electronic voting machine today. And we know that it is this matter relates to the foundation of democracy. But why are we raising charges? Why are we talking about EVM on this day? We are talking about EVM on this day because in the recent this Vidhan Sabha election in Uttar Pradesh, Mr. Akhilesh Yadav, he has said that just 48 hours before the counting of votes in the state election, the EVM machines were moved illegally in Uttar Pradesh's Varanasi. Similarly, if we see BJP, then in 2009, BJP leader LK Advani, I must tell you that he was the leader of opposition at that time, and he demanded that there should be reintroduction of ballot papers for the assembly elections, which were in Maharashtra and three other states. In 2009, they were pending at that time. So he wanted those elections to be conducted by way of ballot paper. If we see the UP elections this time, then commenting on the UP election, Miss Mamta Banerjee, although I am not a follower of her idea, of her politics or of her party, but still, what the point she is raising, that is a very valid one. She said that this election, that the BJP has not won this election by populist vote, but this is a victory by the help of election machinery and central forces and agencies. She said that the DM, who was the Varanasi's additional district magistrate, he was suspended for removing an EVM. She said that this is a huge thing, and Akhilesh Yadav, he has been made to lose this election. So the point which I am trying to make by all these suggestions which I'm presenting, all these quotations and all these allegations, is that there have been many questions which have been raised on elections and on democracy, which on elections which are done through electronic voting machines. So these basically raise a question that do we actually need electronic voting machines in today's time, or should we move back to the ballot paper? In the discussion, I will be moving around, like I will be discussing what is the approach followed in different countries like US and France, Japan. We will also discuss UK and many other countries. What is the method of election in those countries in order to understand this electronic voting machine and whether we should move forward with it. So if we first of all, before coming to other countries, we should talk about India. In India, first time the voting machine was used in 1982. It was in the Kerala Vidhan Sabha, and that time the Congress candidate from that constituency was Mr. A.C. Jose. He lost to Mr. Sivan Pillai, who was from the Communist Party of India, and he moved to the Supreme Court of India. He challenged, I must tell you that in 1982, in which Mr. A.C. Jose participated, that was the election which was done through an EVM machine. So he challenged the use of EVM machine and he moved to the Supreme Court of India because he had lost the election. In his petition, Mr. Jose, before the Supreme Court, he argued that there is no specific law in the Representation of People's Act which prescribed or which validated the use of electronic voting machines. Therefore, this entire exercise of electing Mr. Sivan Pillai of the Communist Party is illegal, and hence the election must be struck off. Now, this contention, which he argued that there is no specific law prescribing the use of EVMs, was upheld by the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court held that EVM could not be used in an election unless there is legal provision to that effect. And the court accused the Election Commission of India of overstepping its authority by charging the way polls are ahead. So, because of this, in the year 1988, an amendment was moved in the parliament, and Section 61A was added to the Representation of People's Act, which says that voting machines can be used in elections. And since that time, we are seeing that voting machines have been used in various elections, whether they are Vidhan Sabha or they are Lok Sabha. Now, if I talk about practices in the world, then there was a report, and that report, it was cited that in the whole, if we consider the whole world, then there are about 120 countries that practice democracy. So out of these 120 countries, only 25 countries have experimented the use of these electronic voting machines, and 95 have not ever introduced the electronic voting machine. If I talk about certain countries in Europe, then if we see the country Netherlands, then Netherlands has banned electronic voting machine. Coming to the United States, if we see United States has presidential form of government, which is different to our parliamentary form of government, which we have in India and which we have taken from UK. So USA is a presidential form of government. It gives a lot of power to the president. Like in India, the prime minister has a lot of power, and the president works on the aid and advice on the prime minister, which is binding on him. But the system is different in US. In US, there is presidential form of government. The president has direct executive power, and he has a lot of power in that sense. But still, if we see, then mostly the US presidential elections, they are held on a ballot paper. Now there was the election assistance commissioner. His name was Mr. Tom Hicks, and he was asked that what is the primary reason why US, being such a big country and such a developed country, they are still using this. Why are they still using this ballot paper, and why are they not moving to the electronic voting machine as we have in India? So he said that the primary reason of using ballot paper is that uh, mo- uh, ballots that are used in most states have security and voter preference, and if you use an electronic voting machine, there is no system of double check. Giving an example, that if someone presses a particular button and his vote is casted, so he does not know where his vote is going. He has just pressed that button. So there is no system of double check. But if someone has, for example, written a ballot paper, so maybe in the future there is at least a probability that he can check where his vote is tendered, or even if someone wants to scrutinify or if someone wants to audit the election, he can one by one check all the ballot papers and check the machinery of counting. But if you use electronic voting machines, then there is no system of double checks. That is why the US election assistance commissioner Mr. Tom Hicks said that US uses ballot papers because of the system of double checks. Now, coming to another country of Europe, which is Germany, I must tell all the viewers that Germany was the first country, one of the first countries in Europe to introduce electronic voting machines. It introduced electronic voting machine in the year 1999. So what happened was that a case was filed. The federal elections were held in 2005 in Germany, in which 39 voting districts used electronic voting machines instead of paper ballots. Now, some 2 million people had casted their votes in that manner, and all this election procedure that was challenged before Germany's highest court. And it was held that this electronic voting machine, this is against democratic principles. And we must all note that the court had upheld, and the court held that this election did not live up to the constitutional principles of transparency of elections. So we must all note that the highest court of Germany, like we have the Supreme Court of India, had held that if election is done by electronic voting machines, then it does not live up to the constitutional principle of transparency. uh, and it held that if there is and it also set the standard, like what is the standard if you want to safeguard a particular election. If you want, what is the standard to say that a particular election procedure is valid and a particular election procedure is not valid? So the standard is that the protection should be understandable to an average citizen. We should focus on the word average citizen. So if, for example, there is voting by ballot paper, then every person who is casting his vote, whether he is literate or he is illiterate, uh, every person who has casted his vote, he knows that he has voted for a particular candidate and his vote has gone there, because that is recorded on a sheet of paper, which is completely objective in nature. But if we say, if he cast his vote on an electronic voting machine, there is no system of double check, as we have already talked about it from the statement of Mr. Tom Hicks. But an average citizen cannot understand where his vote is going, and therefore the standard of understandable to an average citizen is violated. And this was accepted by the highest court in Germany, and uh, held that they should not, and the court held that they should not hold elections using an electronic voting machine. So the Germany is the country which was first in Europe to introduce electronic voting machine moved back to ballot paper. Now, if I come to another European country, it is the Republic of Ireland, and they in the year 2009 also stayed the use of electronic voting machine. This was also followed by another European country, which is Italy. If we consider, in 2006, Italy used voting machines uh, in their national elections, and they basically did not use it for the whole election. They did a small pilot project in which they just involved 3,000 electors from only 4 polling stations, and they basically analyzed how voting goes and how foolproof this system is. And however, after consideration, the country we are talking about, Italy, they moved back to ballot paper. So we have discussed Ireland, we have discussed Italy, we have discussed US, we even discussed Germany, which in which the highest court has held that EVM is unconstitutional. So we, if we consider India and the technological advancement which we have uh, in India today, then we are not at all technologically advanced in comparison to the Western countries, which is an established fact. They are very ahead of us in terms of technology. We even buy our technologies from the West, whether it is defense or whether it is other technologies. We have a lot of deals with the West. We take their technology. So the West, if they have such advanced technology and they are not conducting their elections using the electronic voting machine, then logically it makes no sense for India to come up with a system which has been failed in the West, and they are adopting a failed system in India. There is ample evidence, like I have already stated before all the viewers, that so many countries have rejected the use of electronic voting machines. Then why are we using the rejected technology which the West has rejected in our country? I fail to understand that. Moving forward, if we see, then in India, as of 2018, 58,000, about 58,098 people died working as manual scavengers. So they basically died working, cleaning sewers and excretas. And we don't have any successful technology which we can use so that we can bring an end to manual scavenging. There is technology, but I think we are not implementing that. So we don't have a technology for manual scavenging. I was in the United States. I never heard a single person or people dying because of cleaning the sewers or things like that. But when we read the newspaper in India, we see that a lot of people die cleaning sewers. In 2021, even I was reading 941 people died while cleaning the sewers. However, the Minister of Social Justice said that there is no death because of manual scavenging. That is a separate part. But what we hear in daily life is that a lot of people die from manual scavenging, but we don't see these things in the West because they have effective technology, which and they don't require their people to manually clean excreta and all these sewer lines. Now, the question which I am raising is that we are not getting a successful Western technology of which prohibits or which doesn't let common people go into the sewers, which is successful in the West. Which is successful in the West. We are not getting that technology to India. Rather, we are getting a failed technology of EVM to India in order to conduct the most sacrosanct thing in a democracy, which is election. So I fail to understand why we are doing so. Now, moving away from West, if we see Japan again is another very technologically active country, and it introduced provisions for voting machines in the year 2002. Like, if you remember a few minutes back, I said that in 1988 we in India we introduced section 61A to the Representation of People's Act, which introduced EVMs. So similar act was introduced in the in the country of Japan in the year 2002. Now, still, Japan being such a technologically active and such ahead of us in terms of technology, they still use paper and pencil to give their votes. They have, despite having a provision by using which they can cast their vote using an electronic machine, they don't do that. They still use ballot papers, and using pencil and paper they cast their vote. Again, if we consider UK, we have taken a parliamentary form of democracy from UK. So even developed countries like UK don't use electronic voting machine. If we consider UK, then in January 2016, the parliament revealed that it has no plans. The UK parliament revealed that it has no plans to introduce electronic voting machines for the statutory elections, either using for these elections. They didn't want to use EVMs, or they didn't want to use internet forecasting votes, since they think that election is such a sacrosanct thing for a democracy. So they don't want any kinds of infringement or any kinds of threats to that. Therefore, they didn't use electronic voting machines in their elections. I was talking about UK. Now, talking about one country which is in a lot of talks these days, which is France. France has presidential elections coming up, and the first round is on April 10th, and the next one is on April 24th. And the viewers will be surprised to know that in France is coming up to be as the number one country in Europe after United Kingdom has moved out of the European Union by the Brexit. France is coming out to be a leader in Europe. So France, being such a technologically active, technologically ahead country, still they use ballot paper instead of these electronic voting machines. Similarly, if we consider Singapore, then they have also stuck to on paper ballots owing to their simplicity, verifiability, and voter confidence. So, uh, as I've illustrated, a lot of countries that have moved to this paper ballots, and they have rejected the electronic voting machines. Now, one of the argument which we hear in support of electronic voting machines is the time argument, which is that if we have electronic voting machines, then we can get the result in matter of hours. However, if we don't have them, then we have to spend a lot of days in counting. However, on that, I would like to say that election is the most sacrosanct thing for a democracy. There cannot be any encroachment or any doubt over an election. So, if few days more are spent on counting of votes, I don't think that that is a valid ground or valid argument to raise against the electronic voting machine. And to the people who support electronic voting machines, I would like to say that if you think that electronic voting machines is fair, then you should not resist to its removal, because because if you think it is fair and you are winning the election, then even if it is removed, you will still win the election. However, you will also win the confidence of a lot of people who don't have sympathy, or don't have who don't believe in the system of electronic voting machines. Now, I will just like to tell the viewers about some of the researches and some of the experiments which have been done on the electronic voting machine which is used in India. Now, there was in 2010, three people did this experiment. One was Mr. Hari Prasad, and another was Mr. Alex Halderman, who was a professor at the University of Michigan, and Mr. Rob Gongrip. He was a Dutch technological activist. Now, they basically did their experiments on the electronic voting machine which is used in India, and they exhibited two different methods of tampering of the electronic voting machines. And they have even written an article on this, and the title of their article is Security Analysis of India's Electronic Voting Machine. It is available on the internet. So the point which I'm trying to raise here is that electronic voting machines, they are not foolproof, as has been held and as has been scientifically held by these three international researchers in their research. Now, one of the researcher, Mr. Hari Prasad, who was an engineer, he demonstrated how EVM could be manipulated in favor of a candidate. And surprisingly, after that, he was arrested in the year 2010. If Dr. Alex Halderman, who was also one of the professors, who is a professor of computer science in the University of Michigan, he has basically differentiated the EVM which we have in India and the EVM which we have in the West. So he said that EVMs which are used in Western countries require software attack. They are very sophisticated machines, and their hardware cannot be replaced cheaply. That is what Dr. Alex Halderman says. However, in contrast, he says that Indian EVMs can be can easily be replaced either in part or in the wholesale unit. So he basically says that these EVMs, they are tamperable. Now, if we see the storage aspect of EVM, then there is one American activist. He says that his name is Bev Harris. He says that everybody watches polling closely, but nobody watches counting as closely. So there is a lot of questions that can be raised on the shifting of voting machines, as we have on the storage of voting machines, and as we have noted few allegations which were raised in just a month back, when we saw the result of the UP Vidhan Sabha, in which there were many allegations about the storage of EVMs and about their movement. So these allegations also point us towards the fact that EVMs are not foolproof. If we consider the approach of the Supreme Court, then BJP leader and Rajya Sabha MP, Mr. Subramaniam Swamy, he had filed a petition before the Supreme Court in 2013. After that, he wanted the introduction of paper trails in the elections. Mr. Subramaniam Swamy, who is a BJP MP, has also written a book against EVM. The name of the book is Electronic Voting Machine, Unconstitutional and Tamperable. Furthermore, another BJP MP himself, his name is Mr. GVL Narasimha Rao. He is also a Rajya Sabha MP these days, and he has written a book titled Democracy at Risk. Can we trust electronic voting machines? And he has also written another article, which is 10 reasons for banning Indian EVMs. This is written by Mr. GVL Narasimha Rao, who is a Rajya Sabha MP of the Supreme Court, of Rajya Sabha MP of the Parliament of the BJP. So when members of the BJP and leading political parties have themselves assailed and challenged the elections which is done through EVM, I fail to understand why we are moving forward with that system. Another case which is filed before the Supreme Court on this EVM aspect was the case of N. Chandrababu Naidu versus Union of India. This is a 2019 case. In this case, 21 political parties demanded that there should be at least 50% verification of the VVPAT paper trails with the EVM machine. However, this complete prayer was not upheld by the Supreme Court. The Election Commission held that this would delay the election, but the Supreme Court increased voter verified paper audit trail VVPAT from 1 EVM per assembly segment, which was before, to 5. So we should also consider that even if there is system of VVPAT, but all the VVPATs are not audited with the voting machine. So that also raises a lot of questions about the technology that we are using. Now, furthermore, in January 2022, the Supreme Court has again issued notice, and Supreme Court has agreed to hear to a petition which has challenged the use of electronic voting machines for elections. Now that matter is still pending. Let's see where it goes. However, until and unless there is public sentiment against EVM, which which is visible, it is very difficult to change the situation. However, what I believe is that the Supreme Court of India should follow the judgment of the German highest court, in which they are declared EVM to be unconstitutional, and the Supreme Court should say that electronic voting machines are unconstitutional, as it has been held in Germany. But if the Supreme Court does not do so, then there should also be a peaceful and a non-violent protest at large scale on this aspect, because the process of this electronic voting machine threats and questions the whole democracy. And if we see, then if EVMs are hacked or if EVMs are not working well, then in one election we can move from democracy to a monarchy, because if person is not satisfied, if person is voting for a particular candidate X and still particular candidate Y is being elected, so that is against the constitution, and that is also against democracy. So in one day we can move from democracy to monarchy if we are not checking the system, if we are not checking the system of this electronic voting machine. Talking about the Constitution Assembly debate, then Mr. K.M. Munshi, who was an eminent lawyer at that time, I would like to quote him. He said that if there is going to be a democracy, the sovereign power of the people must be in a position to elect their own representatives in a manner which is above suspicion and above partiality. So he said, Mr. K.M. Munshi, part of the Constituent Assembly, he was member of was part of the Constituent Assembly. He said that an election and democracy should be above suspicion. So, if as in the beginning of the program, I had enumerated so many instances in which so many people have raised concerns over this electronic voting machine. So we cannot say that this whole system is above suspicion. Now, if this whole system is not above suspicion, then it is not. It is not passing the constitutional standard of democracy, which has been set by our constitution makers. I would like to quote Lord Hewart. He was the Chief Justice of England, and in the year 1924, he said that justice should not only be done, it but must also be seen to be done. So even if you are saying that electronic voting machines are valid, are working well, there is no tampering in them. So, but still, justice should not only be done; it should be seen to be done. Every person who is casting his vote must know in a just manner where his vote is going. He should see where his vote is going. There should be a system of checks, as I had mentioned earlier also. There should be a system of at least a person should feel satisfied after giving his vote, and this satisfaction and this system of checks is not being ensured by this electronic voting machine. So I think this should be changed. Now, EVM, like I said, is a device that can change democracy into monarchy in no time. This should be dealt with very seriously. EVMs have already been banned in many countries, like we've already discussed, in Germany, Netherlands, Ireland, Italy, and this list is getting longer. Thus, there is a growing lack of confidence in EVMs world over. Why should India persist in a failed system that has been abandoned worldwide? I fail to understand. And lastly, concluding this program, I will just like to say that the matter on the constitutionality of the electronic voting machine is pending, and the Supreme Court has held that it will consider this petition. So, according to me, the Supreme Court should follow Germany's approach and declare this electronic voting machine to be unconstitutional. Thank you so much.
Right, sir. Thank you very much. You had very widely and elaborated the overall developments as well as how this ballot paper system has been brought back by the by various countries, looking at the temperaments and very different other things. Just one thing that I would like to ask you is that as far as the India is concerned, and most of the people are thinking that yeah, ballot paper should be brought back. So, as an citizens of India, how or what are the ways that these people have, or how they can bring back the ballot paper system through the election commission? Is there any constitutional provision or any other provision where they can ask for this particular system to get it back?
Yeah, this is a very good question, Ashish ji. So, firstly, like I already told, that a petition is currently pending before the Supreme Court on the constitutionality of electronic voting machines. So, similar petitions will be helpful, and if because if a lot of petitions are filed, then a lot of lawyers can argue, and it will be the Supreme Court would also think that there is large scale resentment against the system of electronic voting machine. Also, not only electronic voting machine, if the citizens or if the people of any country, any democratic country, be it India or be it any other country, if they are not satisfied with with the policy of their government, then the constitution gives them the right to protest in a peaceful manner, in a democratic manner. So they have always have the fundamental right to protest, that is recognized in all the countries. So that door is always open for the people on any matter, be it EVM or be it reservation, be it any issue. The constitution gives a fundamental right to protest. Other than that right, we can also knock the doors of the Supreme Court. One matter is pending, but similarly people can file other petitions challenging the use of EVMs. However, until and unless there is large scale peaceful resentment against this system, it will be very difficult to change.
Right, sir. Right, sir. Very rightly pointed out. Thank you very much, sir. You had given enough information and elaborate information within the stipulated time. and I think our viewers had got all the information that they were in need of, because they were in a dilemma. But definitely, I think there is a way, and Constitution guides these citizens of India and each and every individual to secure their right, whether it is through the electronic voting machines or any other their fundamental rights. So nobody can violate or nobody can challenge it. The ultimate people's right is their own right. So definitely, people will take this in a positive way, and look forward for upcoming elections, and raise their voice and raise the petitions as they have the provisions, and they will definitely take this in positive way, and even different political parties that also they should think in this particular direction, because unless and until a political pressure is built up through the society and through the entire available medias and available system, it cannot be challenged. So definitely, sir, thank you very much for elaborating on this particular topic. And as time has ended, we would like to have a concluding message to our viewers. In brief, what you would like to give your message on this particular topic, today's topic, sir.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ashish ji. And I would like to thank all the people who are watching this program today, because this program relates to the foundation of our democracy. So I will just like to sum up whatever I said. Uh, Electronic voting machines have been removed in a lot of developed countries, be it US, France, be it Japan, be it we were talking about UK, we had talked about France, and we had also talk about Ireland. So these countries, these are technologically advanced countries. They are many years ahead of us. If any of us visit these, we go to all these countries, then we can, from our eyes, see how much ahead they are in comparison to India. If we compare them in overall context, if we compare their development to the development of India in its overall context, then we can see that they are a lot ahead of us. But still, they are coming to this system of ballot paper. They are not moving to the electronic voting machines or voting through internet. That is because of a reason, and that reason is that they do not trust the electronic voting machines. Be And they have a lot of objectivity. They have a very independent judiciary. They also have a very they are also highly ranked on the democracy index, which is released every year. Still, they are not coming up. They are not following the system of electronic voting machine. We in India, why should we follow a system that has been failed in these technologically active machines? As I raised in between also, that we don't have effective technology on manual scavenging. Thousands of people have died because of manual scavenging. The West, these technologically active countries, they have effective technology on manual scavenging. Now we are not bringing a successful technology here so that people don't die, but we are bringing a failed technology to India. So I fail to understand why we do so. And I think as soon as possible we should move to the ballot paper back, regardless whether EVM is fair or not. One thing is very clear, one thing is a fact, that there are a lot of allegations which are raised against EVM, and those allegations are sufficient to bring back and to come back to the system of ballot paper. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Abhishek, for joining us today and giving a brief information and elaborate information on this particular topic. It was really helpful, and hope that our viewers will take it in a positive way.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us today on this special Sunday session, and we would like to invite you further in different topics on further different days, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Jai Bhim, Jai Mulyavasi, Jai Bharat, Jai
Yeah.
Sanviधान. Friends, this was Mr. Abhishek Chauhan, who had given this information on this particular very important topic. This topic will be there in this particular link, and you all are requested to share this video link to all in your social media, so that every individual will get this particular information, and they can also share in their social network, so that the dilemma which people have in their in the society, in their minds, that will get a different direction by looking into this particular information. So thank you all for viewing this today's session, and we will again meet you tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. As there will be Hindi prime time discussion from tomorrow onwards. So at 8:30, we all will meet. With that announcement, I would like to thank you all for joining us today and listening to this particular session. Thank you very much. Jai Bhim, Jai Mulnivasi, Jai Bharat, Jai Sabina.